All right. Go ahead and ask your question. Go ahead. It's the best we're going to do right now.
Okay. Good morning. Would you please state your name for the record?
Tarlee Roberts.
Ms. Roberts, how do you know Johnny Depp?
I manage his island in the Exuma Keys in the Bahamas for the past 15 years.
Ms. Roberts, where do you live?
I live on the island, and I have a home in Nassau and in Long Island, the Bahamas, which I try to get to as frequently as possible.
Can you please describe Mr. Depp's private island generally?
My duties on the private island would be to maintain the island, the buildings, the houses, logistics, not included or limited to provisioning fuel, gas, groceries, just day-to-day operations, staff, and kind of like an estate just in the middle of nowhere.
Okay. Your Honor, I would like to pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 49, which has previously been submitted into evidence.
Okay.
And Mr. Gibson, if you could play this, and Your Honor, if we could publish this to the jury. Thank you. We can take that down. Ms. Roberts, do you recognize what is shown in that video?
Yes, that's Johnny's house on the island.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gibson, can you please pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 348? And this hasn't been submitted into evidence yet, so let's first just play that for Ms. Roberts.
All right.
Ms. Roberts, do you recognize what is shown in that video?
Yeah, that's his house and closet area.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd like to, plaintiff moves to admit this into evidence.
All right, 348 in evidence. Do you wish to have it published?
Yes, can we please publish
Okay.
that to the jury? And Mr. Gibson, once it's published, if we could play that again. And Ms. Roberts, what is that doorway with the beads that was just shown in that video?
That's the entrance to the closet
Okay, thank you. We can take that down.
in his house.
Thank you. Ms. Roberts, I believe you mentioned that you manage staff on the island. How many people work with you on the island?
Myself and three others is Jason Major, goes by CJ, Stephen Farrow, and Rico Major.
Is this, I believe the witness is not being shown to the jury right now on their screens. Thank you.
No. The witness. There you go.
Thank you. Ms. Roberts, how are you compensated for your work on the island?
I receive a monthly salary.
Other than this monthly salary, what other sources of income do you have?
I get dividends and rental from family properties and businesses that we have.
Since you've been working for Mr. Depp, how often have you seen him?
On average, 2-3 times a year. Sometimes it was longer, more visits. Sometimes I didn't see him for a period of time, depending on what his schedule was or what was happening on the island.
And how would you describe your interactions with Mr. Depp?
The island was a very family atmosphere, dinners together. He was very social, funny, humorous, very kind with all of us, and very outgoing. Enjoyed working with him and for him.
When you first started working on Mr. Depp's island, who would come down to the island?
At the beginning, it was Vanessa and the children.
Objection.
When he started
Relevance.
All right, hold on a minute, ma'am. Objection.
Relevance.
It goes to just Ms. Roberts' knowledge of who came down to the island with Mr.
We can
Depp.
move forward. Next question.
Okay. Ms. Roberts, Ms. Roberts, are you aware if Mr. Depp brought, or how often did Mr. Depp bring guests with him to the island?
He had guests. He would bring Amber and Amber with her friends, and also I had, on one of the occasions, I had Paul Bettany and his wife and his children here on one of the trips.
And when did the Bettnys come down to the island?
Sometime in the summer of July 2013.
What happened when the Bettnys came down?
It was a normal trip. We had an incident where I was asked to have Amber leave the island. I scheduled a flight for her to leave to go to Florida that morning, and then that afternoon I was told to bring her back, and I arranged for a flight for her to come back that afternoon to the island.
When did you first meet Ms. Heard?
I believe it was shortly after they started dating.
What was your impression of Ms. Heard when you first met her?
Objection.
Oh, they were very much in love.
Relevance.
Okay, go ahead. Next question.
Go ahead.
I think Ms. Berthoff withdrew her objection.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so Ms. Roberts, you can answer. What was your impression of Ms. Heard when you first met her?
Oh, they were very nice, a couple in love. She cooked for him, cleaned up. They took care of each other. They were a very happy couple.
When, if at all, did that change?
With each visit, it changed. More of it was more not like an island life anymore. It was more of wines and more requests. Simple things, toiletries, to have things here in place before they came, or she came as well. So luggage changed. We got more and more luggage. Just things evolved and kind of mushroomed a bit.
How often would you see Ms. Heard on the island when she was in a relationship with Mr. Depp?
I would, on average, every day, taking meals, cleaning houses, sometimes more.
And how often would Ms. Heard come down to the island?
At the beginning, probably the same 2 or 3 times a year, sometimes 3 times with her friends and family and Johnny.
During your interactions with Ms. Heard, what, if any, changes did you observe of Ms. Heard?
The taking care of the cooking the meals, we then had a chef come to cook. It was more of a formal island with chefs and housekeepers and things like that. Changed, yeah, pretty much that.
Ms. Roberts, were you on the island in August 2014 for Mr. Depp's detox?
Yes, I was.
Who else was on the island?
I flew to Nassau and met Johnny, Amber, and Deb. I flew them back to the island, and then a couple of...
Ms. Roberts, I believe you froze there for a second. I heard you say Johnny, Amber, and Deb, and then you were cut off for a second.
A couple of days later, Dr. Kipper arrived.
What do you recall about that time that Mr. Depp came down to the island in August 2014?
That he was going to be here, they were going to be here for an extended period of time, at least a month or longer. And so we provisioned for a month for the trip. And after about a week or two, they left.
Where was Mr. Depp staying for the detox?
In his house.
Is that the same house that was just shown in those videos earlier?
Yes, it was.
How often would you see Mr. Depp when he was on the island for the detox?
I was every day, but not face to face, just from delivering, replenishing the house, delivering supplies, waters, and things like that, linens, and changing things out. So glimpsing him, not a conversation as it used to be.
How was Mr. Depp when you saw him?
He was always asleep on the couch.
While Ms. Heard was on the island for the detox, what, if any, injuries did you observe on Ms. Heard?
I didn't see anything.
After Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard left the island, what happened next?
We would go into the house and break it down, empty out the refrigerators, change the linens, collect the laundry, straighten the house back up again.
After they left, what, if any, property damage did you observe?
There wasn't any.
Okay. Ms. Roberts, to what extent were you involved in Mr. Depp and Mrs. Heard's wedding in February 2015 on the island?
Pretty much all aspects of it, logistics, work permits, getting things set up onto the island, to the island, staff, provisions, building of the tents and organizing transportation of guests to and from the island.
When did you first hear that Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard were getting married on the island?
Objection calls for hearsay and relevance.
What's the relevance of when she heard?
I can move on.
Okay, next question.
What communications, if any, did you have with Ms. Heard about the wedding?
We were given information on a schedule to better help me schedule and the provisioning of what would be on the island, beverages and food and things like that. We were given a schedule for daily things were going to happen each day, what time foods were, when people were coming in, how many people would be at meals, just so I had a better idea of planning of what was happening. It was detailed. It was what was happening each day and then it was the rehearsal night, and there would be, we had scheduled, it would be dinner, dancing, drugs, music, and then the wedding. We were very conscious about doing the wedding. The next day we were doing the wedding, the ceremony, and we were specific on time. Privacy was very important. We were very careful of people taking pictures. I think everybody was given disposable cameras and asked not to take pictures. I was concerned about that also, but we were doing the ceremony at sunset, so there really wouldn't be issue with paparazzi people and things like that. And shortly when the ceremony was about to happen, it actually happened earlier than it was scheduled. The bridal party and Amber showed up early, and we were still scrambling for flowers and setting up and getting beverages and snacks down there. And there was a plane circling overhead, and it would just kept on circling and circling and taking pictures, and the ceremony proceeded earlier than was scheduled.
Did you observe Mr. Depp drinking alcohol at the wedding?
Objection leading.
All right, I'll sustain the objection.
Okay. Ms. Roberts, as part of the provisioning for the wedding, did you order alcohol for the wedding?
Objection, leading.
Sustained.
Okay. Ms. Roberts, what did you order for the wedding in February 2015?
I was given a list of food. I was given a list of beverages for wines, champagnes. I was asked to have Dr. Pepper and sugar-free Red Bull here, because at that time that was what Mr. Depp or Johnny was drinking, was Dr. Pepper and sugar-free Red Bull.
Okay. Did you observe Ms. Heard drinking alcohol at the wedding?
Objection, leading.
Sustained.
Who did you observe drinking alcohol at the wedding?
Pretty much everybody was drinking and doing shots and celebrating. It was a party.
Ms. Roberts, I'd like to discuss with you when Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard were on the island in December 2015. Who came down to the island with them?
I flew to Nassau to meet them, which is what I normally do. I meet himself, Johnny, and whoever comes to the island. I fly to Nassau to meet them just to make sure that the transition is smooth with customs and immigration. So I flew to Nassau and I met Johnny, Amber, his children, and a friend of the children, and load the luggage onto the caravan plane, and we boarded the plane and came to the island. And a couple days into the trip, Alice and Greg and Alice's 3 children and a nanny came to the island as well.
Who are Alice and Greg?
Alice is a clothes designer, and Greg was her partner, and I believe he's a photographer.
When did you first interact with Ms. Heard when she came to the island in December 2015?
At the airport, when I flew to Nassau to meet everybody. Usually when they come down off the plane, you know, there's hugs and kisses and chatting for a couple minutes while the luggage is transferred.
How close were you to Ms. Heard?
Close, hug, kiss, you know, how are you, talk, same with everybody. So face to face, cheek to cheek.
What, if any, makeup did you observe Ms. Heard wearing when you first interacted with her?
I don't recall if she was or was not wearing makeup. If she wore makeup, it was very natural. I don't think often she wore makeup on the island. I don't recall her wearing makeup.
What, if any, injuries did you notice on Ms. Heard?
I didn't notice any.
Ms. Roberts, you mentioned that Gregory, a photographer, came to the island during that time. How often did you observe Gregory on the island?
I interacted every day because meals went down and changing the sheets and cleaning the room. So I see everybody every day there.
And when you saw him, what was he doing?
They were doing. There was a photo shoot on the island. Amber was wearing Amber was wearing Alice's clothes, and they were doing a photo shoot on the beach. And Greg was taking the pictures.
Okay. What, if anything, do you remember about that particular time that Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard came down to the island? There was a incident between Johnny and Amber here during that trip. Okay, can you please describe that incident?
On the evening, we kind of called it a night. Dinner was finished. We wrapped everything up down here at the staff area in the kitchen. Myself and CJ came to the office later on that evening, and Johnny was in the office up here, and he was agitated, kind of walking back and forth. I'd asked him if he needed anything because I wasn't sure if he was up here to get something or was looking for something, which wouldn't be unusual for people to come up here. So he was here talked for a couple minutes, the three of us, and a couple minutes later, Amber came into the office and the three of us were in the office, and Amber came in, and she was asking him to tell him to come back to the house. Please come back. I'm sorry, come back. And he stood here, reluctant to go, didn't want to go, and a little exchange back and forth. He left the office and got into his vehicle and started it up, and Amber went outside and stood in front of the vehicle, so that didn't drive away. Amber was standing in front of it, and again, she was asking him to don't leave. I'm sorry, come back to the house. After a couple minutes, she got in the vehicle and they left to go back to their house.
What happened after they went back up to the house?
CJ and I were still in the office and weren't really sure. Decided that maybe it would be best if we just drove up there just to make sure that everything was okay. And so we got in the golf cart and we drove up to their house, got into the parking lot, and his vehicle was in the parking lot, and you could hear them. You can hear them inside the. You could hear inside the house yelling. Amber yelling and Johnny answering back, but you could really hear what was being said. We stood there for a couple minutes, CJ and myself, and then you started to hear, it became audible. Amber was telling him that he was a washed up actor. He was going to die a fat, lonely old man. Then you heard, you hit me with a can. You heard Johnny say, you hit me with a can. And then he came down the steps and Amber was behind him and she had a bottle in her hand. It was removed, and there was a brief pause at the moment, I think, of initial shock or uncertainty of why, that we were there. Neither Johnny nor Amber knew that we were there. He proceeded to walk back to the John Deere, and she again he was just sitting in the seat. Amber came up to him and was asking him to come back in the house, that she was sorry, please come back in the house. He didn't come out of the seat, and she was hugging and kissing him, and I love you, I love you. She was telling him I loved you. He didn't react. Johnny sat there. Eventually got out of the John Deere and proceeded to start to walk away. At that time, Amber started to grab at him and his shirt and trying to pull him back to the house, just basically viciously trying to pull him back and get him back to the house and yelling at him. And at that point, I was between them and felt it was best, and I was getting worried about what was going to happen, and it was best that I remove him from the situation. And so CJ took Amber back to the house, and I walked Johnny over to the cafe, which was basically 30 seconds away from the house, because it was the only place I could take him to at the time.
And you mentioned that Ms. Heard was viciously trying to pull Mr. Depp back. Can you explain what you mean by that?
It was like clawing, grabbing at his clothes, grabbing his hair, trying to pull him back, like an angry, like he was leaving and come back. He couldn't leave in the vehicle because the keys had been taken out. So there wasn't a way for Johnny to drive away. The only way was for him to walk away, and it wasn't a pleasant situation of wanting him to not leave, and angry and yelling and just yelling, come back, don't leave, and things like that.
At any point, did Mr. Depp hit or touch Ms. Heard?
Objection leading.
All right, I'll see an objection.
Ms. Roberts, how did Mr. Depp react to Ms. Heard viciously grabbing him?
He didn't. He stood there with his arms by his side, and he didn't do anything.
Okay. Ms. Roberts, when you were back in the cafe with Mr. Depp, what happened next?
I was concerned because I had heard him say that he'd gone.
Objection to her being concerned. That's not responsive
I'll sustain as to concerned, all right?
Okay, Ms. Roberts, without testifying as how you felt, what did you observe when you went back to the cafe with Mr. Depp?
When we went back to the cafe, he had a mark across the bridge of his nose. I got a bag of ice to put on it so that it wouldn't swell, just to make sure that it wasn't bleeding. And he walked over to the love seat at the cafe, and he laid down and went to sleep. And CJ came back over, and I asked CJ to stay there for the remainder of the evening, for the remainder of the morning. And I left CJ inside the cafe, and I left Johnny on the couch.
When did you next see Ms. Heard?
That morning, I saw her that morning.
How close were you to Ms. Heard when you interacted with her the next morning?
Conversation, in a couple feet away.
When you saw her, how did she appear?
They had guests leaving, and it was kind of a normal morning, going down to the beach to see the guests leave.
What, if any, makeup was Ms. Heard wearing?
Again, I'm not sure. If she wore makeup on the island, if it was very natural looking.
What, if any, injuries did you observe on Ms. Heard?
I didn't observe any.
What, if any, injuries did you observe on Mr. Depp?
The marking across the bridge of his nose.
When did Ms. Heard and Mr. Depp leave the island?
I believe they left that afternoon. The guests left in the morning, and I believe they left that afternoon.
After Ms. Heard and Mr. Depp left the island, what did you do next?
Our usual, we go into the buildings and we break them down. We empty out the refrigerators, garbage, take all the perishables out of the house, straighten the place up, take the linens away, things like that.
What did you observe when you went through that process?
The island was as it was when they arrived. The only thing that was different was there was the liquid on the deck with a can, I believe, of mineral spirits or something there next to it, which had leaked out onto the deck. And then in the over the railing were paintbrushes and art supplies, paintbrushes, paint tubes, big jars that the paints are in, and those were all scattered in the bush.
Ms. Roberts, when is the first time you provided testimony about this incident in December 2015?
I believe it was for another case in May 2020.
Ms. Roberts, how often have you seen Mr. Depp drink alcohol on the island?
He goes through periods of time where he's been here and he doesn't drink, and it's non-alcoholic Beck's or something like that. It varies. Sometimes he drinks when he's here, sometimes he doesn't.
How often have you seen Ms. Heard drink alcohol on the island?
She drank wine. She drank wine with her drink was wine with dinner, maybe in the afternoon, but I know definitely with dinner.
Did you observe Ms. Heard drinking alcohol when Mr. Depp was not drinking alcohol?
Objection, leading.
No, sustained as leading.
Okay. How often have you seen Mr. Depp drunk?
I would know he has a huge tolerance for alcohol. I haven't seen him passed out drunk or anything like that. So he drinks, but I haven't seen him passed out drunk.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Roberts. Nothing further.
All right, cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor.